evening. Very excited to see you here today. This is the next event from our series of career building events, and this time we have the honor to host Christina McDermott with us. Christina is a social media consultant. She's going to tell you about herself a little bit more in a second. I also encourage you to check out Christina's Juno profile because I checked it earlier and I saw some really interesting screenshots from her previous work, especially the screenshot about ice cream. And if we have time later in the Q&A, I really want to ask a question about this copy. It's something really interesting, I believe. So Christina, over to you.
Hello, so many people. It's good to see you all, and I really appreciate you taking time at the end of the day to attend. Yeah, it's great because I know what it's like after a long day to try and sit somewhere and listen to someone speak for an hour. So I'm going to try and make this as entertaining as possible when it comes to how you promote yourself on social media. So yes, this is me. So I'm Christina. I'm a freelance social media consultant. I'm at director level and I run my own very small agency called Cattington. When I say small, I mean it's literally me and my dad does the invoicing for me. But, you know, I like to make myself sound fancy. And here's just a few of the brands I've worked with. I've been working in social for a really, really long time. I have a lot of good stories. I have a lot of bad stories. I've been freelance since 2016. So I've been around the block a bit, I'd like to think, in terms of my career. There we go. I've won some awards, which I'm very proud of. So in 2021, I was Juno's Social Media Freelancer of the Year, which was very cool. I still use the water flask that I won on the reg. So thank you for that, Juno. And I've also pretended to be a lot of fictional characters online. So I was once Kevin the Carrot on Twitter for Aldi. I have been the Green Giant. I have been the Laughing Cow. And my personal favourite, I worked for Babybel and they commissioned me to be the persona of a Babybel cheese who was a stand-up comedian. So I had to write a lot of dad jokes. I will say it's probably the best day of my career. So you've decided that you need to promote yourself on social media. Now what? Here's 4 easy ways that I've defined for you to get started. The first one is you need to find your voice. The second, you've got to develop a strong personal brand. I know people kind of cringe inwardly when they hear the term personal brand, but honestly, there's a way to do it without making yourself sound like a wanker. Find your community. I am, in my job, I'm a big advocate of building communities, of finding the people who you can relate to and learn from and sharing skills. And I think that's something really, really important. And also resilience. Because if you're a freelancer anyway, you will know what it's like to be resilient. It is not an easy thing to do. And there's a lot of rejection. There's a lot of people who ignore you. There's a lot of people who ghost you. I think part of self-promoting yourself is just kind of brushing yourself down, picking yourself back up and starting all over again. So firstly, finding your voice, because I will guarantee that there's a lot of people out there who have opinions about your respective industries. But the important thing is, what's your opinion? Because quite frankly, you are the only person that counts in this scenario. So there's a lot of places where you can make your voice heard on social. There's LinkedIn. There's a lot of talk about LinkedIn being the new Twitter nowadays, with Twitter kind of crashing and burning a little bit. I will say that I am skeptical, but I think LinkedIn is a really, really important channel, especially if you're a freelancer. And I would say it's probably the most important one to be looking at to really make an impact. Some people will probably want to run away when I say that TikTok's also a good place. Please stay with me. I think TikTok, if you are okay to being in front of a camera, you can really talk authentically about things that are going on, things that are in the news, particular topics that you feel passionate about, and you can talk there as an expert, because again, on TikTok, there's probably a lot of people who are saying a lot of things about your industry that might be incorrect, or saying myths that you know are outdated. Starting your own newsletter, I think, is a really, really good one as well. Substack is easy to use and it's free to use as well. It's just, I think you see a lot of people starting Substacks nowadays, starting their own newsletters. There are some really, really good ones. There's a particular one that I will have linked at the end of this presentation. Slack channels are great. The one for Juno, I find to be really, really useful. A lot of other industries will have their own Slack channels as well that you can join. And Discord. I love Discord because I love being social. I love talking to people. I love finding new people and seeing what they think about what's going on. I'm personally on a number of Discord servers, some that are directly related to my work and some that are a little bit more niche. But I think that it's for that specific community who are all very interested in a particular topic. I think Discord is really, really good. And it's fun as well. So as I said, say yes to Substack. I have my own Substack, as you probably guessed by now. And I found it to be a great tool for me as both a social media expert and as a freelancer. I can just sit, I write a newsletter, it comes out every Friday, and I talk about my thoughts about social media, about freelancing. I have ADHD, so I often put some insights about what it's like to be a freelancer with ADHD in there as well. And honestly, even if the two people just read it, I would get a lot of value out of it, because I find it helps me just get my thoughts and ideas down somewhere that help me when I'm doing the work later on. I think it's also a really great way to build a database of potential clients. If you're putting yourself out there, and you can do hashtags when you're posting a Substack as well, and I find them really, really useful. So I often get a lot of subscribers by people who maybe have done a search for social media or freelancing, found mine and subscribed to it. I have people recommending me as well. So it's kind of snowballed slowly over the past few years into something where I've got a really, really healthy subscriber base. So I could say something like, someone's got a job available for a freelancer. Is there anyone in my network who might be interested in it? And there are people there who will be like, oh yeah, that's really cool. I can click on that, I can look at that and make the connections that way. And I'm also not averse to saying that I have availability sometimes, and asking people, like, if you've got a role that you think I'd be a good fit for, then I'd love to be considered for it. You can be a specialist as well. You can be as niche or as broad as you want to, because it's your platform at the end of the day. And also you can monetize it if you want to. I personally have made the decision not to monetize my Substack. I don't need the money, quite frankly. I quite like writing it, but I know a lot of people who do monetize it and have made quite a good living out of it in terms of what they provide. It's a personal decision at the end of the day, but it is an option that is there if you build a strong enough subscriber list. So what, if you're wondering, what on earth do I talk about? Where do I start? Here's some potential thought starters. So think about what's going on in your industry. Is it AI? Is it a political change? Like, for example, for social media at the moment. There's a lot of talk about TikTok potentially being banned in the USA. Look at what's trending as well. If there's something in the news that you can find a hook on, that you can provide your own perspective on. Think about what your audience are talking about as well. It can even be something that's not in the news or a little thing. You just need to spark kind of an idea, and it can grow and grow and grow into something that is quite relevant and really useful. Major events that you can provide commentary and insight on. For example, the Oscars was last weekend. There are lots and lots of ways that you could find content from the Oscars for social media managers. We can make memes out of the key moments. I've seen a lot of memes around Ryan Gosling's performance of I'm Just Ken, and Martin Scorsese watching it as well, which is quite fun. But even just like sports events, political events, what can you give back to kind of mold it in a way that's relevant to what it is that you do? And think about who are the content creators and influencer voices that people should be listening to as well. One of my favorite newsletters is one called Link in Bio by someone called Rachel Carton, who is a social media expert who is based in the USA. One of the things I think she does really, really well is she interviews people within the industry who are working on the big accounts. So recently she did an interview with Elmo, or the person who tweets as Elmo, which was incredible. She did a recent interview with the person who does Duolingo as well. And I get a lot of value out of the insights that they give and also how she positions it. So by doing that, you don't feel as siloed, and you're kind of giving something back, and you can learn as you go along from others. So, because this is a talk about self-promotion, this is the part where I do some self-promotion. So as I mentioned, I write a weekly letter about social media. It's called Social Lives. It's about social media, freelancing, and things I like. There's often a link to a recipe and a podcast in there and cool stuff around the internet. It's really good. Yes, I am biased. I put a little QR code there, so if you do want to sign up, this is your chance to do so. This will be going around afterwards anyway, so yeah, please read my newsletter. It's really good. And secondly, develop a strong personal brand, because the best person to sell your skills is you. So think about what makes you a unique freelancer. Is it your background? Perhaps you've come to freelancing late in life after working a full-time job for, say, 20 years. Is it your experience? Are you just starting out in the industry and you're noticing things that are really interesting that you want to talk about? Perhaps you've been in the industry for a number of years and you've seen a lot of changes come through that you would, that you think are important to discuss and show that you've got the knowledge and gravitas when it comes to getting the jobs. Is it the level of clients that you've worked with? You could have worked with some really cool, exciting clients, and there's stuff there that, for example, there are things on my CV that when people see, they always kind of ask me about, and I can go, yeah, I've worked with them. They were really cool. Or do you provide a specialism that few other people offer? Is it something about a particular channel, or is it, say, a graphic design service, or is it something to do with SEO? Pick out what it is that makes you stand out from the pack. And now we come back to LinkedIn, everyone's favorite social media channel. So LinkedIn, some people love it, some people hate it, but it's important to have as a freelancer. I would say about 50% of my work as a freelancer comes through LinkedIn, from the connections I've made, from people recommending me, from people who have just searched for me, or done a search of social media managers and I've appeared. It's a very, very powerful tool, but you need to use it to your advantage. So think about your profile. Think about how it sells you when people come to it. Do you have a banner image? Does the banner image have a link to your website in it? Does your profile clearly state your job title? So I've used the example of mine here. So you can see in my job title, you can see freelance social media consultant and brackets, currently working as senior social media manager at Unilever. So you can see where I've been working currently, what my role is, but you can also see that I'm open to work, because I'm always open to work. Give me more work. There's a cost of living crisis. Think as well about your about detail. So when I say above the fold, you've got about 3 sentences before it kind of folds over itself and you have to click on it to read more. You want to be really impactful in those first 3 sentences. Make sure it has a call to action. Make sure it sells people immediately who you are and what you do, and sells you in the best light. So, for example, in mine, you can see, hello, I'm Christina. I'm an award-winning social media specialist who's worked on a variety of projects for global brands. And my current clients are Unilever and CHG Hotel Group. And another one is testimonials. Testimonials are great because you have that proof there that you've worked with people, you've done a good job, and it's proof of concept. There'll be a lot more about testimonials later on in this, but I would say think about getting testimonials when you finish a piece of work or a project, because they will always work in your favor. Instagram's also really important. I know people think of Instagram as perhaps being more of a personal channel, but you can use it really, really well as a freelancer. I would say keep the personal and the professional separate, so there's kind of no overlap. In my personal Instagram profile, I can be very silly. I can talk about stuff that I don't want to say isn't professional, but I definitely have a more goofier tone of voice there than I think I would do when I'm in a professional setting. So that's why I would say keep the personal and the professional separate. And just as by the by, I recommend that with anything you do on social media, to be honest. So think about here's 5 easy ways you can improve your Instagram profile as a freelancer. So firstly, think about your @ and your name. So I would say maybe put what you do at the beginning and then your name. So say social media Christina or photographer Alan, stuff like that. So people coming there immediately know, look, this is who you are, this is what you do. Again, think of the first 3 lines to optimize your bio. Getting there above the fold is really, really important, and it will help you when it comes to SEO as well. Obviously, take a nice professional profile picture. Think about your highlights. You get 5 highlights on Instagram. And when I say highlights, it's stuff that you can put to Instagram stories or posts that can appear under each of the highlights. So you can segment them into topics. And it can be, for example, the different industries that you've worked with. So there might be an FMCG highlight, there might be a hospitality highlight, there might be an entertainment highlight. So people coming there can click on that and see the work that you have done for a particular subset of clients. And it's very nice and segmented and easy for people to see. Utilize your pinned posts too. You get free pinned posts, make them count. Think about the best work that you've got and by pinning it, it will always be there and people can see it immediately when they come to your page. So for example, it could be a show reel, it could be a TVC that you've worked on for a client, it could be a really, really good Instagram reel. Just make it there, make it count. I would say if you're using work that you've done for a client, ask their permission first if you can repost it on your personal Instagram page. Most of the time they're fine. There could be some licensing issues there. So just cover your back before you do it. So a quick checklist for you. Do you have a website? Is it up to date? This is something that I need to think about as well, because I have a website and it's not currently up to date. So learn from me, update your website. Is your LinkedIn profile up to date? Do you have a professional Instagram account? Do you have a portfolio of your best work that you can send out to potential clients? I have a portfolio that I've made up in Canva of recent projects that I've worked on. So if a client says to me, oh, it's really good, but do you have any work examples that I can see when we're having that initial talk? I can go, yes, here, look at my portfolio. And they can see that immediately, that I've recently worked with this client, I've done this particular project, and they can decide then whether they want to work with me or not. It doesn't have to be in Canva. I just do that because I find it nice and easy. If you're more visual, say like a graphic design or photography, just knock up a Squarespace site. It's really easy. You can do it in an afternoon, basically. But it means you've got somewhere that you can guide people to when they're asking for links, case studies, and also you can link to it when you are posting about yourself on social. And again, I know I've said this before when we talked about LinkedIn, but have you asked clients you've worked with to provide you with LinkedIn testimonials once the project is complete? So third, find your community, because there is always strength in numbers. Right. You have to engage. You've got to give something to get something. So I would say, think about the online spaces where people in your industry hang out. I know social media people tend to be on LinkedIn, so I am on LinkedIn too. And I leave comments under their work. I'll repost work from people I really like. I will make connections with people who could be good in the future, or said they're looking for freelancers. One thing I would say when you make a connection, just write a little message to the person. I am way more likely to accept a connection on LinkedIn or anywhere if I get a little note from the person saying, hi, this is me, this is why I'm connecting, would be great to talk. It just makes a difference, and it doesn't make you think make people ignore you because they're wondering why you want to connect. And I know this is a whole presentation about social media and self-promotion, but in my experience, people always love it when you take them out for coffee, particularly if you throw a piece of cake in as well. Sometimes, for all that we can talk to each other online, sometimes it is just good to have that face-to-face contact. So think about how you can make friends and influence people. Who do you look up to in your industry? Who do you disagree with? And I would sometimes say this is more important than thinking about the people that you look up to, because the people that you disagree with, you can write your rebuttal. You can say why you think that they are getting it wrong. You can kind of spar with the ideas a bit. And sometimes I think that gives you more material to work with than, yeah, I totally agree with what this person is saying. They're great. What channels are they using? Look at where they are and look at what they are doing there, and think about what you can emulate. Don't copy directly, but what are little tips and hints and tricks that you can use when thinking about how you promote yourself and your work there? And over time, you will develop your own as well. But it's always good to just kind of scope out the competition. And again, I know I keep saying ask for testimonials. I know, but they do make a difference. In my experience, most clients are happy to provide these at the end of a project. You can ask them to post them on LinkedIn, or you can just get them to email them over to you. You can add them in your portfolio/case studies deck. And also, it gives you a really nice little confidence boost if you're ever feeling down about work. I have had many days where I wonder, why on earth I'm doing this job? Why on earth I'm freelance? Why didn't I listen to my mum when she said I should go and be a plumber? But reading testimonials that from a piece of work that I've done makes me think, actually, yeah, maybe I'm good at this. It just gives you a little bright spark sometimes. As freelancers, we're often on our own a lot of the time. We don't have that office environment to kind of butt ideas off of people or get a little bit of a confidence boost if we're having a bad day, or just have someone that we can go for a walk around the block with and bitch about stuff with. So find those moments that make it all worthwhile. And one of the most important bits, you've got to be resilient, because putting yourself out there is really, really scary. Even when you've been freelancing for years. I've been freelancing now for about 7 years, and I still find it really difficult to promote myself and tell people how good I am at my job, which is a bit silly because I've worked with some really great people, but I think if you're British, it can feel a bit icky to kind of put yourself out there, and you've just got to like get over it and look in the mirror and tell yourself, actually, yeah, I am good. I can do this. Don't get disheartened. It's really, really, really easy to sometimes think this is pointless. Why am I doing this? Particularly if you've spent ages crafting the perfect message to someone who's looking for freelancers and they ghost you, or you leave a really nice comment under someone who you really admires content and they ignore you, or you spend ages making an Instagram reel and people go, you're wrong, or say something personal about your appearance. You just got to keep going. It's sad, but you kind of just got to keep going. Sooner or later, if you keep knocking on enough doors and keep doing it, you will get people responding to you. And I would say one of the most important things, if you take one piece of knowledge from this presentation, it is this: don't be a dickhead on the internet. I put this in every presentation that I do, but I will hammer this point until my dying day. Don't be a dickhead on the internet. It's really, really easy to do. And sometimes people think that it is an effective way of getting yourself noticed by others. And I would say it's okay to be controversial. It's okay to cause a conversation. But if you are actively saying things to troll, it's going to bite you in the arse eventually, because people will know that you're doing it and they won't want to work with you. So let's recap. You need to find your unique selling points, build a strong personal brand, don't be afraid to make those connections, and most importantly, don't be a dickhead. Now, does anyone have any questions?
Thank you, Christina. Thank you so much. I believe there are already 2 questions on the chat. Can I ask, if possible, Jonathan Robinson, you asked a question about being open to work or the badge on LinkedIn. If you could unmute yourself and ask your question, that would be great, if you can.
Sure, thank you. And hi, Christina. I've had conflicting advice about whether, as a freelancer, it's a good look on LinkedIn to have the open to work logo thing that surrounds your profile picture on display. I mean, as freelancers, we're always looking for work, of course, but that perhaps it can give the wrong message that you've never got work, for instance. I just wondered what your take on that might be, please.
People who tell you that it's wrong to have that on your profile are talking bullshit. Apologies for the language. I think that it is, you have to, I've had it on for a number of months, and I have not noticed people actively choosing not to approach me or not to work with me because it's on. I think it's a very regressive way to make people feel that you're being desperate. You're a freelancer. You want the work. And it shows people who are searching for you that you're looking for work and you could be the right fit for them. But I agree, there is a lot of conflicting advice. But I would say if you have it on and you find that it's not working and that you notice you get more people approaching you if you have it off, then do that. But I would say people who tell you that you shouldn't use it are wrong.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Apologies for the bad language. I do swear a bit, so yeah, sorry.
Thanks.
I will have to learn how to put the beeps on the video later. But thank you so much for that. We have another question from Cat Studio. If you could unmute yourself and ask your question about the logo on Instagram account.
Hi, thanks for the webinar. And yeah, my question is about if you have like if you're a designer and you have like a logo for your brand, what is it better to have on your Instagram profile? If it's a professional account, is it best to have your logo or your picture, the picture of yourself?
I would say use the logo because you're selling the studio. You're not selling yourself. You're trying to, I would say use the logo because that can be what people associate with you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, thanks. The only reason I'm asking is because people keep saying that Instagram is a bit more personal and people like to see faces and see people behind the work. Yeah, okay, good to know.
A way to do it though, to get around that, if you feel a bit unsure about using a logo, maybe in the highlights you could have meet the team. So for example, you could do, hi, we're Cat Studio, these are the people behind the logo, these are our experience, and do it like that.
Okay, it's just myself, but yeah.
I feel you.
CAD, so yeah, I just have named myself and my accountant.
Me and my dad.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I know we have two channels where we get questions from. One is the chat and the other is the raise your hand channel. And so let's give an opportunity to those who raise their hand. So Lara, I think you were the next. What's your question?
Thank you. It was just in regards to the open to work on LinkedIn. Have you found that you get people reaching out wanting to offer a full-time job, or does everybody just kind of already know? Because I know when I have mine up, it tends to be full-time and I have to be like, oh no, I'm looking for freelancing, even though my LinkedIn profile does actually say freelancing.
I have had that. I do get it sometimes, but I have to be really clear with people. Like, it says freelance. I'm only really looking for freelance work. It would have to be an exceptional offer for me to consider going back to a full-time job. I think people what they do is they just type in a job title and they just kind of look for people who fit a particular need and they just bombard them and hope that they want a person bites.
Awesome, thank you.
No props.
Thank you. Shelley, would you like to go next?
Yes. Hi, Christina. Thank you so much. I'm a senior creative and I work with and collab with other creatives. I'm just wondering, do you recommend having a paid profile for LinkedIn, like, you know, how they have business or career path, just to see who's looking at you? Do you find any value in that, or just the base one?
I do, but, and this is really important, I'm nosy. So I do like to see who's been spying on my profile. I think in a way it's good because also you can hide looking at other people's profiles if you have the paid version. I pay for LinkedIn, and I have found it to be useful because it just provides me with an extra level of data that I can use when I am looking for people who I could potentially work with. But I think you have to figure out whether it's a useful business expense. I get value from it, but I think it's kind of dependent upon what sector you work in.
Graphic design and brand, web and SEO.
Yeah.
But I was just going to say that's really interesting, because I thought also that might help look at who your audience is and engaging with you, which might actually like help you with your like tone of voice and who your people are that want your service.
I think if you are wanting to do like long form content on LinkedIn as well, that's really, really useful. I get value out of it, so I would recommend it.
Thank you.
No props.
Leon, would you like to go next? If you're talking, we cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Hi.
Can you hear me now? I just was going to say, like, thanks, Christina, for putting on the talk. It's been really interesting. And yeah, two things I was going to say was on my LinkedIn, I always update when I'm next available. So like mid-April, which I find really helps. And then secondly, I've got like this bit of a formula with LinkedIn posts. So I'll like post like what I've done, and then I'll describe about like my part in the role. And then I say like I've now got availability on this date, and that normally gets me quite a lot of like success. But have you got any tips for formulas of how to write posts on social media, for example, like on LinkedIn?
Use a picture.
But like there's a bit of a strategy, like on, it's like sending out a bit of bait to like get people's attention and make them aware that you're available. So like I use like, I'm like, for example, I'll post like either something like informative or something that I've done. It doesn't always have to necessarily be like my work, but it could be like, have you seen this? It's amazing. I've been using it in my work. I've got some availability. Do you have any of those kind of like extra things that you use for your posts?
No. So maybe you should be the one doing this instead of me. Yeah, I've got to be honest. I don't. I kind of post as and when I have something to say. But that's not to say that your method is not good for you and wouldn't work. In fact, I love the tip about putting when you're available in your profile. I think that's a really, really good one to use.
Yeah, that is good. I've been doing that a lot, and then people kind of like know whether I'm booked or not, and it definitely helps. I think it was also
that's
like
right.
Psychology as well, like people know that you're in demand. Yeah,
and honestly, I get queries from people asking like when I've got availability again, so I have somewhere to send them to find out when you know they could potentially work with me. I think that's really useful.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna jump off now. Thanks a lot.
No props. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. I realized that I missed Sonia on the list, and Sonia has 2 questions. So Sonia, would you like to go next?
Hi, Christina. Nice to meet you. Thank you for the talk. I'm a graphic designer and motion designer based in London, and I'm really struggling on promoting myself. I've been in the industry freelancing for 5 years, and it's been all right, but still I have this fear of posting in general. The first question is, how would you recommend, if you are especially booked per day, how would you pull time to actually post or promote yourself? Because when you are fully booked, it's really hard to actually put yourself in marketing because you want to be professional and be there, with the client. So how would you recommend to do that? Do you take time off to do those things, for instance?
What I tend to do for all of my marketing work and my personal work is I tend to do it really early in the morning before I start work. So I tend to start work around 8:30, 9 o'clock. I will usually wake up about 6:30 and try and get an hour to do something personal. So that could be writing my newsletter. That could be thinking about what I'm going to post on my channels. That just dedicating a block of time to a personal project before I get bogged down with people, with work. I think that's fine. But I think you have to think about the phases in your day where you can carve out a chunk of time to do this. It doesn't have to be an hour. It could be 25 minutes. What I really like is the Pomodoro method. So it's a timer where you have 25 minutes and you have no distractions and you can just get something done. And I know 25 minutes doesn't sound like a huge amount of time. You can get a lot done in 25 minutes. And sometimes having one block of those a day to say, right, this is a time where I'm going to do something around marketing myself, that really works.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fantastic. Yeah, makes sense, to be honest. Then the second question I have is, you were mentioning about having kind of like a portfolio. Obviously, I do have like a website plus portfolio PDF. I'm not sure if you were referring that, like basically having a secondary portfolio, maybe more in detail. Do you mean that?
No, when I say portfolio, it's what you find best for your industry. So mine's PDF because I like to write more about the projects that I'm working on. It has hyperlinks in there, and it's something that I can just put in an email when I am when I'm doing an email to a potential new client. But for a graphic designer, you could find something like a Squarespace or just a microsite to be far more useful for you, particularly if there's like a lot of videos or GIFs or something like that. But the thing about a PDF is it's great for copy. It's not that great for video.
Yeah, no, I'm lately have been starting using what it's called Pitch. It's pretty good, to be honest. You need to pay, but you can even see where people are actually checking more. So if there is certain slide, a certain project, and you are like, people like that, or people don't care about your about page. Okay, let's put it at the end. So yeah, it's a nice thing. That's what I've been starting doing, but I'm not sure if it sounds very PowerPoint like, but anyway, it looks good.
I think that as a generation, if we could move away from PowerPoints, that would be for the better, because PowerPoints are the bane of my life. There is no worse sentence in the English language than, can we put this in a deck?
Okay, well, thank you very much.
DJ Shira, would you like to go next?
Hi, I'm one of those people that I'm a freelance graphic designer. I've been freelancer for 20 years. Started in Melbourne, been in London for about 15. And I just recently found out that when you pin something on Instagram, you cannot unpin it. Do you know how to unpin it? I'm an Android user, and you go and tap those little 3 dots and a drop-down menu appears, and there is absolutely no option to unpin it. And it's so infuriating. They say, like, the only solution I found when I was hunting was, just put another one up. Just put 3 up. And then I'm like, but then you can't even get rid of the 3 if you want to unpin. And I heard you talking about pinning, and I thought, I'm going to ask you.
I don't. So maybe you should take my social media manager card away from me. I
can't believe it's a glitch in their meta matrix. Like, it's such a simple user experience need, and it's not
as
even
bad.
there.
I will say, in my defense, a lot of the clients I have will have free pinned posts, forget about them, and be like, "Oh shit, we should update those." That's probably why. But you know what? I will look into that, and if you're in the Slack channel for Juno, I'm going to do a bit of research into it. Right.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, I'm really sorry I can't be of more help there. It's not something that I've heard of. But
it's okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries. And my name is actually Belle, but I'm a victim of when Google took over YouTube. And I was a Yahoo mail that then somehow changed into, it just got morphed. And then I'm a DJ and I changed my YouTube, and then it changed my Gmail, even though, it's ridiculous. So it's
a fantastic name. She-Ra was my favorite cartoon character as a kid. So
I've got a DJ She-Ra Instagram if anyone wants to check it out. But anyway, I'm also a senior graphic designer. So thanks. It's been really helpful.
I'm very pleased to hear that, and I'm sorry I couldn't answer your question.
No worries.
I think it's a great question to our Slack YJ members users. Maybe someone knows how to unpin. Maybe they've had this experience before. I didn't even know that you can pin things to Instagram, yet alone unpin them. I think we have time, and we actually have one more question from Jack. Jack, if you're still there, would you like to ask it?
Yes, thanks, Christina, for the talk. Some really useful insights there. I'm just curious to know what was the motivations and kind of what was the drivers behind you making the transition from advertising yourself as an independent freelancer or consultant to positioning yourself as a studio. And I can see someone beneath me has asked the same question. Is selling yourself as a studio or a consultant best, and does it make any difference?
It does make a difference. When I went freelance, I had two choices. I could either go totally self-employed as a self-employed freelancer, or I could start a limited company, and I made the decision to go as a limited company. The reason I did that is because sometimes I will get a lot of work on, and I want to bring on other freelancers to work with me. And it would look a bit weird if I was doing that as just myself. But as an agency, when we're going to clients, it could be something that we could sell in. So it could be Christina's going to do some strategy, but this person will be doing community management, this person will be doing content creation. So it just seems a little bit more professional when you're talking to clients.
Mm-hmm. And did you find it made an impact on the clients you're able to work with? Because in the same sense, I'm also working with Unilever at the moment, but finding it quite hard to get in there as a freelance consultant. They're looking to partner with me as a brand studio almost.
Unilever is an interesting one. I think they can be a bit of a tricky nut to crack. But I got in because I've got a friend who works there. She recommended me for a role there. But yeah, I totally feel your pain. I do think it has had an effect on the clients that I've got and the contracts I've got. I've had more than one client approach me because they've heard that it's a small agency and they want to work for a more boutique agency. We got on a very big cookware client a couple of years ago because they saw us as being a studio rather than just me in my bedroom with my cats.
Mm-hmm. Cool, that's great. It's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. Jada, I think your question can still fit into our time frame. So why don't you go ahead?
Hi there. Thank you so much. This was really informative and great. And yeah, I was just wondering, I haven't used LinkedIn so much. So I was wondering if you have like a certain frequency that you would recommend for posting, or yeah, should you also do it the same time of day like they recommend with Instagram? Yeah, any tips there? Appreciated.
Post frequently. I would say 2 to 3 times a week is good. Time of day, I don't find it differs that much personally for me. If when you're posting, I would say think about your analytics and look at what you're doing and do test and learn. So for example, you might one week want to post only at 1 or 2 o'clock. See how those do, and then the next week you could try posting say at 4 or 5 o'clock, and then do that comparison of like, well, okay, the week I posted at 1, 2 o'clock, I got 2% more engagement than the week I posted 4 or 5 o'clock. So that seems to be the optimum time for me to post. It is really, you can read and read and read and read lots of recommendations about the best way to do it. I find sometimes just doing it and figuring it out for yourself is the best route to success.
Thank you. I think we have gone through every question now, so I believe we can start wrapping the event up. Christina, thank you so much. I've learned a lot of things today. I hope that everyone else did as well. So can we all give Christina a round of applause and maybe a bit of celebration and hearts on top of that? Oh, okay. Do we have one more question? Did I see someone raise their hand, or was it just a clap? I'll take it was just a clap. So just general announcements. If you would like to revisit this session, it has been recorded. It should be in our Freelance Hub in probably 48 hours, if you'd like to see Christina's slides again. I will also send a follow-up email with some information on how to reach Christina if you have any further questions. Thank you so much for joining today, and see you hopefully soon at the next event.